2020 was a strange year. A worldwide pandemic saw many major sporting events put on hold, with very little certainty on when they'd be rescheduled. For the MTA New South Wales Rally Championship, the 5-event calendar was thrown into doubt when the opening event, the Netier National Capital Rally, was pushed back to November. The AMH Automotive Group Rally of the Bay was next up, and with a July 4th date, COVID restrictions eased just in time to allow the event to proceed. There were 7 stages planned and 80 teams on the starting line, all vying for a place on the podium. Tony Sullins and Kaylee Newell had ended the previous year's championship just outside the top 3. But for 2020, Sullins had plans.
Season-wise, I'm just planning on coming to every event and having fun. For this event-wise, I'm planning on going as well as I can, but the field is the best we've ever seen by miles. It's basically an ARC, and so I really don't know what to expect, but yeah, my plans are to go flat out.
Another contender was former Aussie rally champ Nathan Quinn. He was in a borrowed car and under no illusion that there were plenty of rivals at the first round of the MTA series.
Yeah, there's apparently a couple of good drivers here today, so no, it'd be good. I think it's fantastic for the state series to have the pedigree we have. I think it's a reminder of how state rallying used to be, full of all the best guys, and only the few make it to the top. So it should be an interesting day, and I'm sure there'll be plenty of action.
Heat 1 consisted of 4 stages, starting with the Old Highway. Tom Clark and Ryan Preston in the Mitsubishi Lancer had a disappointing 2019. The pair were hoping for a better 2020.
50, 6 left, brake into 2 right. 6 left, brake, 2 right, here it is, 2 right.
But finishing the first stage in 5th was not the start they were looking for, and they would have some work to do if they were going to stamp their mark on the series.
5 left, at the end, 5 left.
Aaron Windus and Daniel Brick were in a newly built Subaru WRX, and they were leading the heat at the end of Special Stage 3. There was some flamboyant driving and absolute commitment shown. But the young Victorian wouldn't make it to the end of the heat, with an accident in the River Road stage putting them out of contention. But there was more than just one Windus aiming at a rally win. Aaron's father, Darren Windus, with Joe Brick co-driving, was setting the early pace, winning the first stage in their Subaru WRX. Nathan Quinn and Ray Winwood Smith were having their own troubles, struggling to get the car to perform. At the end of Heat 1, he was 8th outright, and with a car not to his liking and with the potential to damage it, he withdrew from the event. Another series hopeful was Clayton Hoy, with Erin Kelly sitting in the co-driver's seat. They were quick in the first stage of the day, but then they too suffered mechanical dramas and were forced to retire at the midday service. Andrew Penny and Reece Llewellyn were another team in a newly built Subaru WRX.
180. 100 left entry.
They were slowly coming to grips with the new car and managed a 5th fastest stage time on the Follow the River stage. They finished the first heat in 6th. Fifth in Heat 1 went to Mal Keogh and Pip Bennett in the incredible sounding Audi Quattro S1 replica. They were also the quickest four-wheel drive car in the East Coast Classic Series.
It's great to be back rallying. Can't thank the organisers enough. We're planning on doing all of the New South Wales State Series, so yeah, and their rounds of the East Coast Classics as well. So.
Finishing Heat 1 just 1.6 seconds in front of the Audi was Chris Higgs in a Lancer Evolution.
Narrow through this part, straight 200, brake into 3+ left at the end. Not this bit, at the end, 3+ left.
Higgs was consistently at the top of the leaderboard and was third fastest in the Follow the River stage. The team rewarded with fourth outright in the heat. Back in the fight for the heat win, Sullins and Newell were following their plan of driving flat out.
Left 90, left 5.5, minus, long, over brow, open. 200, early, flat, short,
SS3 was most suited to their two-wheel drive Citroen, and their quick time contributed to their third outright for the heat.
The first stage I was scared and didn't know how fast to go, and did pretty well. Second stage I knew we were going to get smacked. That Drury stage, that was the one I had my name on, and I don't know how we went in that, but I reckon we probably went all right. And of course, River Road, we just give away all the time under the sun. But yeah, really good. The car is absolutely fantastic. Kaylee's been on point in the notes the whole time, and yeah, really good.
Clark and Preston, meanwhile, managed to put their poor start behind them to take the battle to the two Windus cars in front.
6 left, opens 8. Flat brow, 200. So car off here, mate. The car off up here.
But midway through stage 4, they would pass Junior Windus on the side of the road.
At 150.
The team would take second in the heat, but it wasn't without its issues.
We're definitely a bit rusty in that first stage. I felt my driving was well off the pace. And also we had a bit of an issue with the engine. It's got a bit of a misfire. So it sort of come in on the first stage, second stage it got a little bit worse, and then for some reason on the third stage it disappeared, and then come back on the fourth. So look, I think the boys will get it sort of sorted now and find out what it is. But other than that, the car feels really good, and we slowly got into a groove. I think by the third stage I started to feel like we're sort of back where we need to be.
But the heat win would go to the senior Windus and Brick. They won SS1 and SS4 to be leading the heat and the event by 15.9 seconds over Clark and Preston. There are a few other impressive drives down the order, with Tristan Carrigan and Neil Woolley in an Alfa Romeo 147 finishing inside the top 10. They started car 36, but managed to climb up the score sheet to finish 9th in Heat 1. A fantastic performance. The Bathurst husband and wife team of Ron and Joe Moore hadn't seen the forest for a while and was sitting at 17th at the midday service.
It's been 12 months for us. We haven't actually competed since we competed here last year, so first time we've been able to do River Road, because last year it was shut down. The second time through we blew the diff just before the end, so we didn't even get onto the stage. So enjoyed that today. Very, very good. Very good roads.
Heat 2 of the rally would see teams cover the 44.5 kilometre Rundamogo stage, with Darren Windus and Joe Brick winning the stage convincingly. Clark and Preston's were next, 13 seconds behind Windus, who had now developed a convincing lead in the overall rally. Sullins and Newell needed a flowing fast stage for them to be competitive in the front-wheel drive Citroen against the four-wheel drive cars, and the Rundamogo was just that. They threw everything at the 44 kilometre test to finish third, but were 30 seconds behind Clark.
Stay right, flat brow, left 6, and straight grid jump. Stay right, flat brow, left 6, and straight grid jump, and brow into left.
Penny and Llewellyn in the Subaru WRX were in a battle of their own. They were up against Higgs and Nicoli in the Mitsubishi Lancer and were separated by just 0.6 of a second after the gruelling 44 kilometres. 16-year-old Taylor Gill was starting to show his speed in his first ever rally.
50, short right 6 minus.
He finished the Rundamogo stage in 6th position, which is where he'd finished the second heat, scoring valuable points towards the championship. With just 2 stages remaining, the second run over the Drury stage would be cancelled due to an earlier accident, and the heat and rally win would come down to the last stage, which now, due to timing, was running in the dark. But the fight for the podium positions wouldn't change in Heat 2. Windus would win the second heat by a convincing 41.8 seconds and the overall rally by 57.7 seconds.
Mate, what a ball. Had an absolute gem of a time, as we do every year when we come up here. And probably a good result by the look of it today too, so that sort of caps off it all, makes it all worth it.
30, 8 right, into 7 left, at tree here, into 7, 2 right, 2 right, 2 right.
Clark would hold on to second place in the heat and also the rally, and incredibly, he beat Sullins in the two-wheel drive Citroen by exactly the same time that he was beaten by Windus, 57.7 seconds.
3 left, into 4 left, 3 left here, into 4 left,
Yeah, look, it was a bit of a rough day and the car didn't do everything it needed to do, but mate, we'll take that. It was sort of, we'd push on and just go as hard as we can with what we've got, and the day looks like it's paid off.
4.5 hubs, into left 4.5.
Third place in the heat and also the rally was an amazing result for Sullins in a car that is at a distinct disadvantage over the four-wheel drive cars in front of him.
Wow, is all I can say. That's the best field we've ever seen in a state rally in the history of Australia, I reckon, and top fives I'll take every day. I've driven as fast as I've ever driven in all my life today, and I'm really happy and rewarded, and I found new levels of comfortableness, so it's good.
Let's check out the points for the championship after this round. With the Windus team sitting on top with maximum points, they'll be up for a big commitment to make it to the next round of the series in Oberon for the Caves Classic Rally. 7th and 8th place on the leaderboard are also two teams to watch. Tim and Peter Joas have made a commitment to the MTA series and showed great speed throughout the event. Likewise, Chris and sister-in-law Katie Giddens have a vast range of experience competing at state level, and they'll be worth watching at the next round of the series. In the two-wheel drive East Coast Classic Rally Series, Tom Dermody and Owen Moynihan took an early lead in their Ford RS 1800, but an issue in the Follow the River stage would see them lose 9 minutes and the lead. The eventual winner was Clay Badenoch and Katrina Kelly in the Toyota Celica. A consistent drive with stage times in the top 4 all day, culminating in a stage win in the dark on Follow the River, even beating the four-wheel drive classic Audi of Keogh and Bennett. In the classes, Ryan Williams and Brad Jones in a Mitsubishi Mirage won the Pocket Rocket class by a huge 3.5-minute margin. They were also placed 12th outright, with some committed driving shown throughout the rally. Badenoch and Kelly took the win in the 1600 to 2 litre class. They beat Ron and Steve McKinnon in a Mitsubishi Lancer. The over 2 litre class was won by Sullins and Newell in their Citroen. Second in the class was Adrian Stratford and Kane Manning in a newly built Ford Fiesta. The pair from Victoria were also a very credible 10th outright and the second two-wheel drive home overall. The Rally of the Bay was also a round of the Clubman Series, but only 5 of the 7 stages counted towards the points. The Clubman teams were also restricted to using the road book with no pace notes allowed. 32 teams were vying for points, but only a few of the Clubman competitors would get to cover SS5. An accident involving Leslie Adams and Christopher Agenbach in the Datsun 1600 saw the cancellation of the stage. Plenty of teams put up a good fight in the Clubman section, including Mike Benke and Ellie Yates in a Honda Civic they'd only just rebuilt in the lead up to this event. James Price and Maisie Place were also trying their hardest for a win in their Ford Escort. They were the quickest of the two-wheel drive Clubman teams, taking the two-wheel drive win by 2.5 minutes. But the outright win in the Clubman category went to Riley Walters and Jeffrey Williamson in a Subaru. Not only did 17-year-old Walters win the category, but he was also sitting 13th outright in the overall rally after stage 5. He'll be one to watch in the future. In the Hyundai Rally Series, there were 5 different teams competing and a battle developing for the top honours, with Mitch Garrard and Taylor Murphy winning 2 of the 4 stages. Ben Vanzel and Nadine Buscher in their Excel also won 2 stages, and they came out on top to win the Hyundai class by a mere 8.9 seconds. The next round of the MTA New South Wales Rally Championship was the Midstate Freight Caves Classic Rally. Based in the small New South Wales township of Oberon, the event was originally scheduled for September, but with tough New South Wales government restrictions on sporting events, the organisers decided to put the event on hold. Eventually, the rally went ahead on the 10th of October, with a field of 40 competitors lined up to take on the 9 special stages. With the Victorian border closed, Windus couldn't defend his championship lead, which effectively left Tom Clark leading the MTA series. And he knew what needed to be done.
Realistically, I think we've got to go out and just go as hard as we can. I have a habit of getting a bit complacent sometimes if I'm a bit of a lead and making errors if I back off. So I think we'll just have to go as hard as we can all day and see what sort of lead we can get.
And for Sullins, who was sitting 4 points behind, he wasn't changing his strategy.
We're just going to go flat out, maximum attack, see what happens. Blind roads, I don't really know them. I did the rally last year, so I think a couple of the stages are the same. The rest of them, I don't have a clue. But we'll just go flat out.
Andrew Penny and Rhys Llewellyn were sitting 5th in the championship after the AMH Rally of the Bay, but both Windus and Chris Higgs weren't entered for the Caves Classic Rally, giving Penny a distinct championship advantage, and he was starting to come to grips with the new WRX.
Look, we're going to go out there and give it a really good go. I think this car's a different beast. This one's really angry and loose and all over the road, but got heaps of drive. But that comes with the diff setups, where the other car was very forgiving and but really heavy. So this car's a much better car.
Heat 1 was 68 kilometres over 5 stages, and 3 different drivers would win stages, starting with Mal Keogh and Pip Bennett in the Audi, winning the opening Lowe's Mount stage, but by less than a second. Right behind him was Tom Clark and stand-in co-driver Jim Gleeson. Gleeson was sitting in the co-driver's seat due to border restrictions preventing regular co-driver Ryan Preston from leaving Queensland.
Goes nearly 90 left. 200 goes nearly 90 left. 100 goes nearly 90 left. And 200 now. Double caution. Road goes right on crest, then goes left, don't cut. 100.
But Gleeson is no stranger to the podium, having won multiple championships alongside several different drivers. Clark knew that this event was crucial to his championship hopes, and in the next 2 stages lifted his game, winning both the 10-kilometre Roberts and 18.8-kilometre Essington stages. He was now in a good heat position, leading by just over 30 seconds, with 2 stages remaining in the heat. Keogh and Bennett in the Audi couldn't match the pace of the Evo Lancer in front of them, but were still very much in contention. They finished Roberts just 6 seconds behind Clark, and with a 3rd place in the Essington stage, they were now sitting 2nd in the heat. Penny and Llewellyn in the Subaru were starting to show what they and the new car were capable of.
100, keep right over crest. Coming up here, keep right over crest, then 300 jump. 200, keep jump.
But in the Essington stage, disaster would strike. After narrowly missing a kangaroo early in the stage, they wouldn't be so lucky later.
Good work.
And a relatively small tap of a roo was enough to hold the radiator, forcing them out of the heat.
Narrow culvert, hard to see on exit. No, we're okay. Turn hard right here if you want, or pull up.
pull us through, mate.
Sullins and Newell and the Citroen were quietly doing their thing, driving the DS3 flat out.
Narrow culvert. 200, where it goes right over narrow culvert.
What's this one?
200, straight on.
They finished the second two stages in fourth, and then in the flowing Essington stage, up the ante to finish second, 17 seconds behind Clark. And this would be enough for them to be sitting third for the heat. Ron and Joe Moore are Bathurst locals and finished the first three stages in fifth, which put them solidly in fourth position behind Sullins. But in the next two stages, Beamerang and Stacey's would see Moore pull out all stops and win both stages. Over the 20-kilometre Beamerang stage, Moore was quickest by 8 seconds. And then in one of his favourite stages, Stacey's, he was again quickest, but this time by just 1 second. His performance in the older model Evo jumped him up the leaderboard to third outright in Heat 1, collecting 20 valuable points towards the championship.
Yeah, I'm stoked. That's good. Yeah, we've, local people, we know the area, and we run rallies out this way for other clubs and other people, and I guess you get comfortable on a road, and it takes a bit of comfort for me to go quick these days. I'm getting a little bit older and larger, and if you don't feel comfortable, you don't go quick, so I guess that's what it is. Yeah. I think my best result at state level was fourth at Bathurst in 2018 on canvas tyres. So I think we'll just follow the same process, just keep driving and wearing them out and putting fuel through it. So, yeah, and enjoy it. It's good fun.
For Sullins, even though he finished third and fifth in the two remaining stages for Heat 1, Moore's quicker times would see Sullins drop down a place to finish the heat in fourth.
Yeah, great result. Very happy. Second last stage, I gave away too much time. I was driving too fast and stalled it at both two hairpins and should have gone better. I'm disappointed with myself for that, but apart from that, I had a really good run. I sort of feel like I wanted to have notes, and you get to the crest and go, oh damn, I should have gone flat. That local knowledge would be a good thing if you've got it, but I enjoyed the stages. They were really good. It's a bit hard to commit when you don't really know what's there.
Square right at T-junction. 200, 100, turn square right at T-junction. 700. 700.
Up front in the battle for the Heat win, Keogh and Bennett in the Audi were pushing very hard. They were second quickest in the two remaining stages, beating Clark in front of them. But with 30 seconds to make up, it was a big ask, and they had to settle for second in the heat.
Very happy with that. Yeah, I've never been down here before, so first time on the roads. We're running blind, not on pace notes, so really happy. I'm very comfortable. I'm sort of, I'm pushing along, but I'm comfortable. So I'd rather see a finish than an issue. So we're trying for a finish. So.
Clark and Gleeson were a bit off the pace for the remaining two stages, having a few issues with their brakes, but still taking top 5 placings. Their times were enough to maintain the lead in the heat, taking the full 25 points and jumping them to the top of the MTA Championship leaderboard.
I don't know how, but we'll take that. Going into stage 4, we'd just about to roll up to control and the foot went to the floor, which was a bit odd. So we sort of rustled around to have a look what it was, and one of the banjo fittings had let go on the rear brake line. So we sort of bodged that up and blocked it and sort of just limped our way through the last two stages. I think we probably lost a minute or so, but for some reason we still had enough up our sleeve to get the heat and the win.
300, turn hard right downhill. 200, turn hard right downhill. There it is. 100.
Further back in the field, Nathan Quinn and Ray Winwood-Smith were improving on every stage. After a less than ordinary start to the season in an Evo Lancer, they swapped back to their 50-year-old Mazda that took them to victory in the East Coast Classic Series in 2019. 2 top 5 stage times in Heat 1 would see them finish the heat 5th outright and also win the heat for the East Coast Classic Rally Series.
I want to finish this rally decently this time, so sure, we're doing the best we can with the old Mazda, and we literally rolled it out from the Alpine. It sat in COVID hibernation for the last 11 months, and it jumped back in it, and just like day one at Alpine, the car is just perfect. So couldn't get a better car, really.
Tim and Peter Joas in an older Evo 2 Lancer were having a consistent drive and slowly improving stage by stage. A 4th quickest time over the 18-kilometre Essington stage would see them finish Heat 1 in 6th overall. 7th in the heat would be Chris and Katie Giddens in a Lancer Evo 9. They might not have been the fastest over the stages, but they were definitely consistent, not only finishing the heat in 7th, but placing 7th on the first 4 stages of the heat. But winning the MTA New South Wales Championship isn't always about winning every rally. Consistency and reliability play a big part, and as we'll see later, the Giddens team will be rewarded for just that. Finishing just behind them in a Lancer Evo 6 was Bethany Cullen and Mel McMinn. They'd had car issues at the AMH Rally of the Bay, so an 8th in the heat here at the Midstate Freight Caves Classic Rally was a great result.
I was pretty upset after how we went at the Bay. It just really wasn't handling well, and a lot of the changes that we made to the car just didn't quite work the way we wanted them. So it was sort of good to actually have a little bit of a break so we could sort of reset and take note of what went wrong and make it better. And we're at least able to get a couple of days worth of testing done between then and now, so we've sort of been able to make it right.
9th in the heat would go to Andrew and David Travis in the Nissan Gazelle. They'd also be in 2nd place for Heat 1 of the East Coast Classic Rally Series. And rounding out the top 10 was teenager Taylor Gill, with experienced co-driver Peter Harris reading the route instructions.
300 straight on, hold on left.
This was Gill's 2nd ever rally and first using a road book with only route instructions.
Just reading the roads in general, it's a whole new challenge to pace now, so it's not going too badly. I was a bit sceptical that I was going to sort of not really like the concept of blind rallying, but I got through the first stage and I was really, really happy, and just getting more and more confident as the stage is going, so I'm enjoying it.
300, hold close side, straight on.
Heat 2 of the Midstate Freight Caves Classic Rally was just over 58 kilometres and conducted over 4 repeated stages. Roberts, Essington, Beamerang and Stacey's were the stages used, and the time set by nearly every team was significantly quicker on the second pass. Whilst a win in Heat 2 was extremely important for the MTA New South Wales Championship, the intense battle that developed for the lead of the rally between Sullins, Keogh and Clark was much more exciting, and it would come down to the very last stage. Clark was the first into the Roberts stage, and as you would expect on the second pass, was pushing hard and taking a few more risks.
And 500 turn hard left.
This wasn't the time for making mistakes, but that's exactly what happened.
Right and tighten. 200, turn right uphill. 100.
The off-road excursion may have been brief, but was it enough to lose him the lead?
Have I got a flat? Back. What's the finish time?
Sullins was sitting in 4th position outright at the start of the second heat, and now that he too was familiar with the Roberts stage, he set the fastest time, beating Clark by 2.4 seconds.
100
It was enough to jump up the leaderboard, and he was now third outright and leading the heat. Keogh in the Audi was third quickest over the Roberts stage, which was enough to maintain his outright second place. But in the 18-kilometre Essington stage, Keogh and Bennett were second quickest and jumped into the lead of the rally.
Rough for 100.
Sullins and Newell knew that they needed to push the two-wheel drive Citroën past the limit if they wanted maximum points and to win the event, and that's exactly what they did, winning the Essington stage. They were 25 seconds quicker than their first pass over Essington. This elevated them another place on the overall rally. They were now second behind Keogh. The damage to Clark and Gleeson's car was more than just a flat tyre, and in the Essington stage they were 30 seconds slower than their first pass. Even though they'd built up a substantial lead, that was gone and they dropped back to third outright. But incredibly, in the next stage, Beamerang, they threw caution to the wind and won the 20-kilometre test.
100, hard left at C. Hard left at
C. They jumped back into second place outright with just one stage to go. This was bad news for Sullins. He was now back in third position outright. He was second fastest on the Beamerang stage, and whilst this was enough to maintain his lead in Heat 2, he no doubt wanted to win the event outright.
700.
Keogh and Bennett finished Beamerang in third outright, leaving them in the lead of the event and second outright in the heat. But there was now just 2.7 seconds separating them from Clark and Sullins behind. Over the final stage, Sullins and Newell were flying. They took 12.5 seconds off Clark and Gleeson and beat the Audi of Keogh and Bennett by 4.8 seconds. They won the heat by over 20 seconds, and incredibly, they won the rally outright by the smallest of margins, just 2.1 seconds. They take 44 points from the event towards the championship.
I'm happy with that. I drove as fast as I could go everywhere I went. Like I said to Kaylee, I said, if I've got to make up 5 seconds, I can't go any faster than I went. So I was happy.
For Keogh and Bennett, second outright in the event and also second in the heat was an excellent result, with the same points haul as Sullins, 44 towards the MTA series.
It just amazes me what Tony can do in that car. It's just unbelievable. But yeah, no, great result. Happy with it. Mate, the car's straight, I'm happy. I've pushed hard enough, I think. I didn't overstep the mark, so yeah, I'm really happy.
Despite a day of dramas, Clark and Gleeson drove an incredible event and were third outright for the heat and third outright for the overall rally. But despite not winning the event, they'd take home 45 points, one more than Keogh and Sullins.
Yeah, look, it's we've had a shocking day, and I think we only got 2 clean stages today, so we babied it through the last few, and I don't know, it's hard to tell. I think we've lost about 2 minutes overall. So we had an issue with a brake line let go, so we had to limp through 2 stages, and then we've hit a big rock and we've bent the front and the rear steering really bad. So we had to baby through most of that, and yeah, it's just one of those days.
Careful. 400 straight on.
For Ron and Joe Moore in the Mitsubishi Evo, they maintained 4th outright throughout the final 4 stages. This was their best result for many years, and they were also 4th in the second heat.
We never expected to finish this well, and it's been one of those challenging events. We ran off the road in the second last stage and couldn't see out the windscreen, and thought it was all over, but got back onto the road and continued. So yeah, here we are. It's good.
Quinn and Winwood Smith in the Mazda RX-2 had a great run. They maintained 5th outright over the remaining stages and were also placed 5th in the heat. The former Australian rally champion showing just how competitive he can be in any car.
Yeah, it's about time I bloody finished one of these Caves rallies unscathed. It's pretty good. I got the the sponsor in the car with me, so I had to pull my finger out, but unfortunately we just can't match the faster cars, but we had a good day, and the car's just a weapon. 50 years old. It's a bit like a couple of the Cougars I've been with.
6th outright and 6th in the heat would be taken by the father and son team of Tim and Peter Joas. They'd been setting consistent top 6 times throughout the day, and in a Lancer with a lot less technology than the newer Lancers in front.
It was a pretty average morning, really, so we're a bit better this afternoon, but I've never been off the road in so many different angles at such slow speed. It was something else, but no, it was good fun. Look, glad we got to the end, so that's the main thing.
Chris and Katie Giddens were next, finishing the second heat and the event in 7th. They'd leave the event with 32 points, and their consistent placings jumped them up the championship standings to be sitting in 5th.
We've been guided the way all day, been with Katie, and just been a bit cautious because history prevails out here. You do know it's got its little catch-out points, and haven't been here for a long time, but it's been a good day for us.
8th outright was taken by Cullen and McMinn. They'd had a much better run than at the previous round and were happy with their result.
It's been a great day in the forest, and when the car's working well and the driver's working well and the nav's working well and we're singing along, everyone's got smiles.
Chris Jarks and Hugh Taylor were 9th in another Lancer Evo. And rounding out the top 10 was Taylor Gill and Peter Harris in the Subaru WRX.
Turn hard left. The T-junction. Watch the dust, mate.
A top 10 for the young teenager in only his second proper rally event was an amazing result. That would see him move up the MTA New South Wales Championship ladder to be sitting in 7th. For Penny and Llewellyn in the Subaru WRX, they managed to get the car back into Heat 2, but then suffered issues with brakes locking on. This would slow the team considerably, and 15th in the heat was the best they could do.
Oh yeah, the stage before a brake master cylinder locked on, so the front brakes actually are on full. So I tried to bleed them up at the start of the stage, and about 3Ks in, we couldn't go any further forward. The brakes completely locked on, so I've just relieved the pressure on the front, so we've got no brakes and just using the magic wand.
Magic wand.
It was a really, really scary ride. I'm just glad the event's over. Good to go again for next time.
Let's take a look at the leaderboard after round 2 of the championship. Tom Clark is now in the lead with a slender 5-point margin over Tony Sullins. Mal Keogh sits in 3rd. As the teams left the Midstate Freight Caves Classic Rally, they were contemplating the final rounds. But as we'll find out, 2020 still had one more thing to throw at the MTA New South Wales Rally calendar. In the East Coast Classic Rally Series, Keogh in the Audi Quattro S1 and Quinn in the Mazda RX-2 took the 4-wheel drive and 2-wheel drive categories respectively. Owen Moynihan and John Brophy in the Mark II Escort were second 2-wheel drive classic and showed some spirited driving. We normally see Moynihan sitting in the co-driver seat for Tom Dermody, both having won the inaugural East Coast Classic Rally Series. But as a driver, Moynihan showed he's a man of many talents. third two-wheel drive classic car was Michael Valentine and Ross Plunkett in a Datsun 1600. Valentine has previously won the Club and Rally Series and kept the spectators entertained at the Midstate Freight Caves Classic Rally. In the Club and Rally Series, Moynihan and Brophy would take top honours. Michael Curtin and Pierce Lennon in a Datsun 1600 would be second. And Mark and Harrison Hudson were third club and home in their Subaru. In the Hyundai Rally Series, there were just 3 teams taking part in the Midstate Caves Classic Rally, with Ben Vanzel and Nadine Boucher taking the win for the second event in a row. And in the pace-noted part of the rally, Sean McAloon and Mulrianne Hayes put in a decent performance despite rolling their car in the second stage. They were then third quickest in the following stage, Essington, and put in a bunch of top 5 stage times to finish the event a very credible 11th outright and win the pace note component of the event. The next MTA New South Wales Rally Championship event was the Kosciuszko Automotive Monaro Stages Rally. The event, based in the south of the state, was all set to proceed as planned, but nature had other ideas. In a devastating blow to the organising team, wet weather in the lead up to the weekend, and predicted heavy falls likely to affect roads, management of the forests had little choice than to close down the roads and therefore the rally. There was no hope of a reschedule, and with the North Coast Rally also not going ahead, the 5-round championship would be decided over just 3 rallies. And that meant there was just one more event to go, the rescheduled Netier National Capital Rally. Held in the forest surrounding Canberra, the event was also the only Australian Rally Championship rally for the year. A 2-day event with the MTA New South Wales component contested over the first day of competition only. There was just 11 points separating the top 3 placings in the championship, and with 45 points on offer, the series was far from resolved. This was the deciding event, and Tom Clark, Tony Sullins and Mal Keogh were all vying for the MTA State Championship victory. Clark had his regular co-driver Ryan Preston back in the passenger seat and knows that Sullins is probably his biggest rival.
Tony can be very fast, and I think very fast in that Citroen, but these roads, I think we were doing recce, and both Ryan and I looked at each other and said, Tony's going to be hating this at the moment. It's not a front-wheel drive sort of lots of roads, so it's going to be hard for Tony, which is, that sort of helps us out a bit. But look, we always have a good tussle with Tony, and looking forward to it. We've had plenty of years now that we thought we'd had the championship stitched up and had some issues or something small that had let us down. So look, we do want to get this one under our belt, and then next year, look, we could float around in New South Wales again, but we will be doing ARC for a full round in the Evo, and look to maybe something in the future with a different car in the years to come.
Clark was also entered in the ARC component of the rally, so his starting position was a long way in front of the rest of the New South Wales crews. This wasn't ideal for Sullins, but as usual, he had his standard plan.
My plan's as usual, flat out, see what happens. Tom's that far in front of us on the road that he hasn't got much idea of what we're doing, so I'm assuming he'll just go flat out, race against the ARC boys, and we'll go flat out and see what happens at the end of the day. Canberra has always been a bit of a nemesis for me. I can't do very well in a front-wheel drive car. The last 3 stages I've probably got half a chance on. They're not too bad, but the first couple are, I wouldn't be surprised if we get beaten by quite a substantial amount of time. So we'll go as fast as we can, but I don't know.
Andrew Penny and Reece Llewellyn were back, their repaired WRX ready to tackle the Canberra roads.
It was unfortunate last rally with the couple of wildlife incidents, but we put the car back together, we made some modifications, and it seems to be a lot faster on testing, so we're here to have a good go and see what happens. At the end of the day, this year was always about testing a new car and getting it fast, and it seems to be fast out of the box. We just got to have a bit of luck on our side and drive clearly, so Canberra's the place to do it.
Chris and Katie Giddens were 5th in the championship behind Tim and Peter Joas, who'd decided to sit this event out. So Giddens was in a great position.
The road's nice. Went out yesterday for the recce. Hopefully we'll keep it on the road and having a good day, but it isn't going to be hot for everybody today. That'll be the biggest thing, I think. Everybody's the temperature of the cars, whether it's the temperature in the cabs, is going to be the killer for us all. Actually, I can't remember doing a rally this hot. It's not that it's so hot, it's so muggy at the moment, isn't it? So I think everybody just keep the fluids up. We'll all be right. We'll all have fun out there.
Heat 1 was made up of 2 stages, Cottage Five Ways and Tidbinbilla, but they were repeated to make 4 stages for the heat. Clark and Preston started the 14.7 kilometre Cottage Five Ways stage first.
7 left rights into 4 right. Car off, 4 right.
Being seeded up with the ARC runners, they had a road position advantage over Sullins and Keogh, who were 20 cars behind at the front of the New South Wales crews. But news would soon come through that Clark was off the road and out of the rally. Now Keogh and Pip Bennett in the Audi would take the early lead, winning the first 2 tests and opening up a 24-second margin. The next on the scoreboard was Clayton Hoy and Aaron Kelly. They'd missed the Caves event, but were back making their mark in Canberra. They were quick out of the blocks, just 0.4 of a second behind Keogh in the first stage, but struggled in the next, dropping 23 seconds. In third place after the first 2 tests was Chris Higgs and Steve Fisher in an Evo Lancer. They were another team to miss the Caves rally, so were not in contention for the MTA series. Sullins and Newell knew these first 2 stages weren't suited to the 2-wheel drive Citroen.
Left and left entry, right 3.5 over crest hub.
But as they passed Clark, they realised there was now 1 less car between them and the championship win.
Into short left 5.
Nonetheless, they continued to push hard to take 3rd and 5th outright stage times. This had them in 4th outright after 2 stages, only 2.2 seconds off 3rd place outright. Giddens in another Lancer Evo rounded out the top 5 with times close to Sullins over Cottage Five Ways and Tidbinbilla. They were just 5.2 seconds behind the Citroen.
Crest, then long 4 left, tightens 3. Tightens 3, 50, crest into 3 left.
For Penny and Llewellyn in the WRX, they struggled. Catching another car and eating dust for most of the first stage, their stage time was almost a minute off the lead, and they'd finished the stage a terrible 16th. And the second stage wasn't much better, again catching the car in front and struggling to see past the dust.
Right 3 plus, right 3 plus, uphill, 50, left 5.
They'd used the push to pass, and with only a kilometre to go, they'd finally overtake the slower car.
3 tidy, brow 70, left 3
But it was all too little too late, and they'd be 16th outright, with a big margin to make up if they wanted a good finish.
Right 3 plus in, right 3 plus in, that's it.
Over the repeated stages 3 and 4, Hoy and Kelly in the Mitsubishi Lancer took back the 24-second deficit they had, winning both stages and winning the heat by just 2.5 seconds over Keogh.
It's a bit better than we expected. It's so tough out there. It's so hot. Dusty, narrow stages, rocks everywhere. But yeah, we managed to get through all right, so we're happy. Our pace notes aren't perfect that I rode. 2 pass recce, never been here, was very difficult. The first pass we were on roadbook and we were taking wrong turns and having to back up, and we were holding up other people that wanted to travel a bit quicker than us. And second pass we got it all right, but we need better notes for next time. Erin's doing perfect, but it was just I didn't pace note right. So
all right, well, all the best for this afternoon. I see Dad's working under the car. There's a few little issues.
Yeah, there is now. Bit of gearbox oil and a few loose bolts, so we'll try and get that fixed and get back out there.
Keogh was still quick though, 4th fastest in stage 3, and then 2nd quickest in the repeated Tidbinbilla. It was enough for him to secure 2nd in the heat.
Yep, excellent. Yeah, I'll take that every day of the week. The next stages are probably faster. I'm not as confident in the faster stuff as what Tony is, so Tony will probably push on okay, so we'll just keep it in the middle of the road and stay comfortable. So
Sullins was still pushing hard. He was 3rd fastest in both the repeated stages, and this was what he needed to jump up 1 place to finish the heat in 3rd and take a slender 4-point margin in the championship.
Win it or min it, one of the two. I won't back off, we'll go as hard as we can. I'm more comfortable in the next 3 stages, but I'm sure the Quattro is really fast in the next 2 stages, so I'll just try and see.
Now, who would have thought that we go down to this sort of championship? It's pretty exciting from championship finishing point of view.
Oh, it's fantastic. In recce, I was talking to Kaylee and I said, look, I can't remember the last time a 2-wheel drive car actually won without getting it help advantage with the class point sort of thing, like an outright. I said it would be a really good thing. And Mal's car, I mean, an Audi Quattro, it's probably its last chance to ever go and win anything like that. It's a cool thing too. So, yeah, it's fantastic.
Chris and Katie Giddens weren't backing off either. They'd been fighting for 4th and 5th outright with Higgs and managed to pull back almost 20 seconds in the second pass over the stages. They'd be rewarded with 4th in the heat and were now 4th in the championship behind Clark. But with Clark now out of the event, Giddens would only need to finish the second heat 13th or better to pass Clark on the scoreboard.
4 right over steep crest. Win the ruse. 4 right over steep crest. 4 right. 80. 4 left into 3 right.
Higgs and Fisher were next, 5th in the heat. But after missing the previous round, they weren't here to win the series. They had other things in mind.
Yeah, we're pretty happy how today is going. We came just to basically have a bit of seat time and see what actually happened. Unfortunately, in the last stage 4, we had an overshoot that cost us about 20 seconds. So we'll just go back out this afternoon and see what we can do and, yeah, hopefully finish and see what the result is.
Jamie and Brad Luff were new names on the championship scoreboard, and they finished Heat 1 in 6th. And in 7th position, and also first 2-wheel drive in the East Coast Classic Rally Series, was Clay Badnock and Katrina Kelly in the Toyota Celica.
Listen, it's rough. It's hot and rough. And you get it wrong and it's all over. Like there's rocks and bloody holes everywhere. You just got to stay on your game. Try and keep your mind on the job through the heat. Keep hydrated. But I think we're going all right. I believe we're still behind Mal, so we're first 2-wheel drive. So having a ball, going well.
Short right 5, into left 5 up, middle brow exit.
Penny and Llewellyn had fixed the dust issue and were now able to compete on a level playing field with the rest of the New South Wales teams. They quickly showed what the WRX was capable of, finishing the second run over Cottage Fiveways in 2nd outright, just 8 seconds behind the winner of the stage, Hoy. 5th in the next stage would catapult them up the outright standings to be 8th, a remarkable result considering their dramas earlier. Mark Willis and Cam Baker were 9th outright in the Subaru WRX. Ron and Joe Moore went into the Netier National Capital Rally sitting 6th in the championship and were consistently in the top 10 over the 4 stages of Heat 1. They finished 10th outright in Heat 1 and their consistency saw them move up to 5th outright in the MTA New South Wales standings. Anthony Cullen and Mel McMinn had been up to 8th position outright and looking good for a top 10 finish until they had a flat tyre in Special Stage 4, which dropped them down the leaderboard. There was now just 3 new stages, each repeated, to make up the 6 stages and the final heat of the MTA New South Wales Rally Championship. And Keogh needed 5 points more than Sullins to win the series. Heat 2 was a nail-biter. The first stage of the second heat would be a very different stage, depending on where you were seated. For the teams also running in the ARC, like Hoy and Kelly, the roads were dry and fast. Hoy took the win, but wouldn't be so lucky in the next stage, which was wet and slippery, dropping almost a minute. He was still leading the rally, but the margin had closed to just 8.9 seconds after the first 3 stages. Higgs and Fisher in the Lancer were settling into the conditions. They were second quickest on each of the first 3 stages of Heat 2, putting them into the lead of the heat and third outright in the overall rally. Penny and Llewellyn were also in the ARC field, so they missed the rain in the Hiles block stage, securing a third fastest time.
Left 4 tidy. Into right 6.
With rain in the next stage, they slowed due to the conditions, but their time was quick enough to put them into second in the heat. But the next stage, they'd lose their rear brakes and drop back to 7th in the heat and 7th outright.
Hard to see. Drop the brake line into left 5. Going to go. Left 5, middle hump, left.
Keogh and Bennett hadn't lost sight of the goal, but were hit with the storm in Hiles block and were 11th on stage. They made up for it over the next 2, winning both and settling into second outright. But they were 7th in the heat and now behind Sullins. Whilst the outright positions were important, the 2-heat system meant effectively the rally started again from a championship points perspective. And for Sullins and Newell, they needed a good heat result to win the series. The wet conditions in Special Stage 5 slowed Sullins slightly, but not as much as Keogh. Over the next 2 stages, Sullins couldn't match Keogh's winning stage times, but did manage to stay in front of the Audi for the heat. Sullins and Newell were now second in Heat 2, despite being behind Keogh in the outright rally results. But that's exactly what was needed. By the time Giddens started Hiles block, conditions were still tricky. The Lancer Evo team were also aware of the point system, and they were again consistently towards the top of the scoreboard.
3 left into 3 right.
Giddens was 4th outright in the heat, despite dropping back a place down to 5th in the overall rally. But at this rate, he was on track for a top 3 result in the championship.
Rock on exit.
The final 3 stages would see Hoy claim 2 faster stage times and win the rally.
Yeah, it's been a tough day actually. With the demister not working when the rain come and the heat, the dust, and yeah, a bit rough for the old Evo 6, but it made it. I wouldn't want to do too many rallies like this. 1 a year is good. Coming back the second time, it's going to be a total different outlook, but so I think we'll be right now. Even though we won.
But it was Higgs who impressed. 1 stage win on the second pass over East-West and 2 second fastest stage times gave him the heat win and second outright.
Okay, that'd be great if that's the case, but yeah, we'll just have to wait and see. I'm not counting the chickens until they're hatched. The weather just laid it on every way there, like, you know, it was hot and then it rained and then it got humid, then it got slippery in the clay bits. Yeah, so we'll just wait and see what happens. You know, to have Steve in the car for the first time ever, it's just gelled really well. You know, unfortunately Damon can't be here, but, you know, it was awesome to have Steve as a really good navigator, and he kept me on track all day.
But in the battle for the championship, Keogh pushed on. With only 4 points needed to beat Sullins, it was an impossible task, and he would have to settle for 4th in the heat behind his rival. Whilst he'd beaten Sullins in the overall rally, he'd be 2nd in the championship.
Well, it's a bit of a shame Tom went out. That's not how I'd like to see it happen, but rallying's rallying, and anything can happen, and usually does. But Tony's just Tony. He's just unbelievable. It'll be the highest ever finish in a championship. I won the Group 6 championship many years ago up around Coffs Harbour, but I've only ever jagged a couple of wins in state since then. But yeah.
For Sullins and Newell, it was business as usual in the car. They pushed hard in every stage, with the Citroen on the limit into every corner, beating Keogh and Bennett in 2 of the last 3 stages. At the end of the final stage, they were 4th outright in the rally. But more importantly, they were 3rd in the heat, taking more points than Keogh and winning the championship.
It's been a long time coming. I've missed out by like a point or two for over the years, and it's freaking awesome. Yeah, really great. Kaylee was with me, and for the whole year haven't put a scratch on the car. It's pretty good. But the plan was, that's why I didn't come down in a 4-wheel drive car. If I couldn't win in a 2-wheel drive car, I didn't want to. I wanted to go as hard as I could possibly go and let the results speak for themselves.
Chris and Katie Giddens drove the last 3 stages consistently and finished the heat in 6th and the rally in a very credible 5th outright. A fantastic season for the Giddens team, culminating in 3rd in the championship. What a great result.
Is it? Well, we haven't actually seen the results yet, but when it rained it was a bit demanding, but other than that we've had a ball. When the wet was out, I don't like the wet, but once it dried out again, it was pretty quick over this side. It was good.
Back in the pack, Penny and Llewellyn had sorted their brake issues and set the 5th fastest stage time over the final 3 stages. They'd be 5th in Heat 2 and 6th outright for the overall rally, finishing the championship in 6th.
Over 6. Into right 4 plus.
Taylor Gill and Peter Harris in the Subaru WRX showed what they were capable of in Heat 2. Gill was 4th quickest in Stage 5, an incredible result. And we must remember that this is only his 3rd event and 2nd on pace notes.
Right 4 plus. Yep. Into left 4. 40. 140. Left 4.
Throughout Heat 2, he was consistently in the top 10 and finished the Heat 7th, which is where the teenager would finish the championship. No doubt this is a driver to watch in the future. Willis and Baker in another Subaru WRX finished the 2nd heat in 8th and was 7th outright in the overall rally. In the East Coast Classic Rally Series, Badenoch and Kelly in the RA40 Celica were the first 2-wheel drive classic car and finished the overall rally in 8th. Even though they'd missed the Caves Classic Rally, they accumulated enough points to be 2nd in the 2-wheel drive classic series. Sean McAloon and Mulrianne Hayes in a Ford Escort were the 2nd 2-wheel drive classic car home and secured 3rd place in the series. But it was Jake Bramble in a Datsun 1600 who'd win the East Coast Classic 2-wheel drive category. He'd been consistent throughout the 3 rallies in 2020 and had also won the Clubman Series. Let's check out the final standings for the season. Tony Sullins wins the MTA New South Wales Rally Championship with a 5-point margin over Mal Keogh in the Audi. Chris Giddens takes 3rd ahead of Tom Clark and Chris Higgs. Over in the Co-Drivers Championship, Kaylee Newell wins ahead of Pip Bennett with Katie Giddens 3rd. In the East Coast Classic Rally Series, it's Mal Keogh taking the top position, followed by Jake Bramble, Clay Badenoch, Sean McAloon and Ron McKinnon. Andrew Bennett wins the co-driver series with Katrina Kelly in second, Maurianne Hayes third and Josh Love fourth in the Datsun 1600. Well, that brings us to the end of our review of the 2020 MTA New South Wales Rally Championship and East Coast Classic Rally Series. We hope you've enjoyed the rally action and we'll be back again for the 2021 season at the end of March. See you in the forests.
You sure you can handle? Okay.